does anyone have any questions of John or Megan?
Surely there's a question.
Just very briefly, the split between male and female apprentices in Germany, perhaps?
Well, it was interesting. We didn't see a lot and ask that question. At Airbus, the split was 149-1 in the first year intake, and I think it was better in other years. That was the next day we asked it. It was at the Desma Shoemaker plant. It was probably better than that, but they've got 350 vocations, so it's pretty much it's split across the board, but we didn't get a lot into that.
There was quite a few girls at Porsche.
Same, I didn't get a jet from Airbus.
Jim Barron, GTA. My question is to both panelists, and thank you for your excellent presentations. Apprenticeship support services, looking into the crystal ball, how do you see that playing out in the future? And do you see the quantum of money the issue, or do you see the quality of provision of services the issue?
I think what we have now will not be what we will be seeing retendered. So it won't be retendered, I think it'll be a new model. And there'll be a significant IT drive sitting behind the model. I think that makes good sense, where you can do it efficiently at the back end. You should. That does not for a minute suggest that that personal interface is not important, because it absolutely is, and it will live and die. I mean, it will live or die without it. No, I think it's up for grabs. I think it's quite different. It will be repositioned differently in terms of the money. You wouldn't want to be too confident about any bucket of money at the moment, would you?
Just to probably agree with one of Megan's previous statements, as an employer had 20 people coming in and out his door to see his apprentice, and I think that's one of our biggest problems, that we don't need so many organisations looking after apprentices. I strongly agree with that, particularly in group training, where we can look after our own and probably do all the services. But getting back, I declare an interest because I have got an interest in an act. So, however, I think it's hard to picture where the government are going. They're giving mixed messages about the act, whether it's going to be changed. I would have agreed with Megan last week. This week I'm not so sure, so it's still a little bit all over the shop what this government wants to do with the act, and hard to read at the moment. But we need less people interfering. That's probably Megan all at the moment.
Thanks, Dave. Megan, could you expand a little bit more on your comments around a group training model for the future? You talked about critical mass and capacity. What's your vision of a model, future model for group training?
I probably need to be careful is that I don't necessarily have a future model, the future model. I just have, some directions that could be pursued that wouldn't necessarily need to be universally pursued by group training companies. But I do have a broader view. I made a comment that I don't think the ACT services will remain as they are. Nor do I think group training will remain as it is unless you want to walk your way smaller. So I think we just sit here and just say these are the things that are happening around you, what do you want to happen to you, or which future do you want to go out and create yourself. And if you stand back again, and which is sort of what I've been doing in the last handful of months, because I've taken over the AIGTS role in the last 6 months, but I'm still Director of Policy as well at our group. And if you actually stand back and look about, well, what are the first principles of what we're trying to achieve here, what's working, what's not working, you actually start, and we have great debates in this country for 20 years, and I've been guilty of being party of all of them. We've got this industry-led training system, and we don't. I think we have a government-led training system, and I think those charts of apprenticeship numbers show the impact of policy on numbers. But if you want to have a demand-led system and you want industry to be in the driving seat, then how do you actually aggregate demand on the employer or the industry side of the equation? You need a platform to do it. Do you build a new platform or do you use an existing platform? I think that's the challenge group training companies have to consider.
A question for John. Mature age apprenticeships in Germany. Have you got any facts and figures on that?
Well, we didn't get any facts and figures, but they enter when they're young because their unemployment rate's less than ours. They encourage their young people to join, they give them a career path, so they didn't have that issue, but they seem to have the issue that we have. I have to agree on Megan's previous points about government interference into training, and I think what we've now got a labour market program, not a skills development program. That's one of the things that industry needs to get back hold of, the apprenticeship system of governments. I was trying to highlight the German system as governments need to get out of it and let industry be more involved.
They virtually don't have mature age apprentices in Germany because kids make a choice when they're 11 about which school they go to, and if you're in a vocational school, you stay in that till you've finished your apprenticeship. It's a very linear model.
Just a couple of points. You talked about in Germany the status of apprenticeships, and successive governments here have talked about lifting the status of apprenticeships. And I think that's really important. At this time of year, I know apprenticeship centres, and I'm sure GTOs receive calls from usually the mum saying, I've got little Johnny at home, he needs an apprentice, and they've no idea what apprenticeship they want to go in. So it's like an afterthought. And I take your point, John, about it's not a labour market programme, and that's what happens in the politics of it. At one time it's skilling Australians, and the next moment it's a labour market programme, and it really does make it muddy.
Yeah, you're right. With the German culture, apprenticeships, people are encouraged, or their parents really want their young people to do an apprenticeship. So it's not university first. They, as Megan said, maybe they make choices at 11, but I think we need to start with our schools and explain to schools what an apprenticeship is, rather than there is other places in life beside university and good career paths, and that's probably where we need to start. Our own organisation runs a vocational program in a primary school, trying to get kids to attend school more than be a tradie. If they want to be a tradie, we're welcome to have one when they get that age. But I think we need to start with some of those areas to encourage our young people to pursue numeracy up so they can get into the workforce.
I would just add to that. I think we've got to do our thinking from where Australia's at now. And it's really good to go and visit Germany and England and whatnot, but the German system, in my view, just does not translate to Australia. And the status of apprenticeships over there, or trades I should say, is really, really high, and the status of engineering is even higher again. 1 in 4 workers in Germany is either an engineer or working in an engineering-related occupation, and nearly all of them have come through a trade pathway, not a higher education pathway. They might then go on to do so. So you've got the preeminence in there. You don't ever have to explain to anybody. Whereas if you go to, our kids have lots of choices, and they should have lots of choices. That's what we want for our own children. But so we've got to make them good choices.
Just back on the model, Megan, I would argue that the model of group training has proven itself over 30 years to be highly flexible and agile and reflecting responsive and responding to different market conditions. Conversely though, the model itself has been undermined by a lot of ill-conceived policy decisions at both the state and federal. I would just caution about being too hasty in changing the model, and I think the model itself is proven to be very effective over the course of the 3 decades.
I don't think I was suggesting change the model. I was suggesting there's opportunities to build it as opposed to change it. And I think the fact that there's a lot of people in this room that have been around for a long time is testament to that, and testament to the strength of the apprenticeship system, where it in fact works incredibly well. I sit around our council tables at AI Group, and there's all CEOs, and not most of them, but a number of them have in fact come through an apprenticeship pathway themselves. So I get the value of the journey in spades, and I get the value of group training in spades. But I think other policy interventions have crowded the space. Whether they were invited to or not by group training companies, that's absolutely what's happened. And so it's about dealing with the situation we find ourselves in rather than the one we prefer to find, and trying to get to the one we prefer to find ourselves in.
David from ATEP. Just a question for Megan in the first instance, and probably John as well. The future of school-based apprenticeships in traditional trades, as it stands. We're talking about youth and transition from school to work and government support into vocational schools, the German model, for example. School-based apprenticeships in traditional trades, the numbers have declined year in, year out for the last 2 years. Just interested in your thoughts on this.
I think we've got a big issue around school-based apprenticeships, vetting schools, vocational bits and bobs that happen there. I think we think the apprenticeship system is a bit confusing. I think that's even more confusing. Every government rebrands, reconfigures a trade, something or other in the schooling system in some way. And I think that has been problematic, except to say that 2 years ago they weren't even buying into the conversation. So it has become something that politicians have worked out that they need to be in that space, and that whole connection around youth and pathways and schooling is important more than it ever used to be. And frankly, through the GFC, the employment rates in this country weren't too bad through the GFC, sorry, that too probably. Except if you go to youth unemployment, it doubled the average unemployment, and the youth unemployment rate that was triggered by the GFC has not recovered full stop. So we are not dealing effectively with that cohort at all, and we do need to clarify what's happening out there so that we can increase engagement of employers and parents in particular, and actually provide meaningful pathways for kids. And I think sometimes we make it too difficult for them. I think some of the kids that come through school-based apprenticeships and then go into a tradition, I think we should give medals for resilience.
I think it's the same as the rest of the market, David. It's crowded. We want vetting schools, school-based apprenticeships, work experience. Once again, the employers are confused about what's out there, so we need to work out what we want, what we're going to give to our young people. We certainly need something, but we need to get employers' thoughts and employers more involved in what they really want, not to confuse them. And once again, how many people are out there selling it to employers and walking in and out of the one place, along with network providers, training companies, and the market once again is becoming very crowded.
Okay, with that, we've got a small token of our appreciation for our two panellists today, so please put your hands together.